Hi, I'm Sarah McGarraugh, a managing consultant at the Improve Group. And today I'm speaking with Bountifield International Executive Director, Alexandra Spieldoch. We have been working together since 2017 on an evaluation of the introduction, distribution, and use of a new Bountifield millet thresher, and now recently a grinder into the local agricultural economy of a few regions in Senegal. So we're recording this interview as part of a series celebrating Improve Group's 20th anniversary, so you might know it as hashtag IG 2020. And our anniversary theme is connections. And so I'm so excited to connect with Alexandra today about this interesting and important work together. So Alexandra.
Hi, Sarah. It's so good to connect with you, and I love the theme of your anniversary year. I think it captures really well the work that you do, and also my experience with you. As mentioned, I'm Alexandra Spieldoch, and I'm the CEO of Bountifield International, and we are a nonprofit that's based in Minneapolis, but committed to an Africa that can feed herself and is poised to feed the rest of the world. And we do that by developing programs where we're providing tools to small farmers and rural entrepreneurs so that they can process, sell, and save more food. We have a particular emphasis on the ability to bring tools and services to women and youth to create employment and new capacity in the rural sector in Africa. And we're currently working in Senegal, Malawi, and Kenya. What excites me the most about this work is the opportunity to develop a replicable model for small-scale food technology businesses across Africa that can help millions of people. And I've been so proud to be thinking about this work with the Improve Group. So thanks for taking the time to chat with me. It's great to catch up.
Thanks, Alexandra. So I'd love for our first first discussion point and conversation to be about how much this work really means to us. I have a personal interest in our work together, having lived in Senegal for a year, and so when the opportunity came for us to partner, I was really excited, and I think I've told you the genesis story that I have known about what used to be the organization's name, Compatible Technologies International, for many years, just through a little bit of kind of random happenstance of my kind of family growing up in a church and having some connection to the organization as I knew it growing up. But I'm really excited about the opportunity to partner with Bountifield International because the solutions and the programming that you're working on is really related to some work and interests that the Improve Group is pursuing and working on, which is in market strategies for social impact, and thinking about the way in which impact investing can really leverage markets for social good. And this project is really about kind of exploring that edge, exploring the market, thinking about the ways in which we can use that to achieve your goals in Africa and beyond. So I've been excited and thrilled to be working on this project with Bountifield, as a kind of ongoing work for you all, but the opportunity that presented itself was through the USAID award. So I'd love to hear, I think our genesis story of how we came to work together is both unique and a great example of kind of our relationship. So I'd love if you could tell the story a little bit about how Bountifield and IG first connected. What brought us together and what made you want to partner with us?
Absolutely. Well, I'll take it a step back. You mentioned that we were formerly named Compatible Technology International, and so much of our history was around R&D and basic prototyping of small-scale equipment for pretty much anywhere around the world. We have tools in 50 countries today. But what I learned quickly and what I've been working on since 2013 is that, yes, tools are really important, but the system around the tools is equally as important. And some of the biggest gaps in markets in Africa are with regard to distribution, lack of a clear revenue model, a misunderstanding about how challenging it is to link supply with demand, especially when you're talking about small scale equipment and who is the customer. These are all really challenging structural questions. And, the ultimate reality and challenge is that smallholder markets have not been competitive. And that the private sector talks about investment, but they do not have a clear profit model yet. And therefore, there's a lot of work to do to kind of get in there and figure out what is the most appropriate way to get technology where it needs to go and to create a business model behind that. And I think it's super exciting work. I think it's transformative work. I think it's exciting for an organization like Bountifield because of our history with General Mills and the role that we can play and some of the networks that we can tap into. But nonetheless, it's an area of expansion and growth for our organization. And so we went through a rebrand, thinking about all of the components, the mission and the vision of the organization, and how to really clarify where we saw the biggest need and the biggest gaps in sub-Saharan Africa. We also worked with the Improved Group on a theory of change, and I think that's been really critical. But now, how could we get deeper into understanding, evaluating, learning from the work that we're doing and keep getting better? When I met, the Improved Group's director, Leah, I was so impressed with her leadership. It was at a MIN conference, and she was clear and concise. And I just thought, wow, the Improved Group probably has some assets that we could really benefit from. And because we're a small organization and trying to grow, you have to be able to also afford to pay for, services like monitoring and evaluation, and which are so critical, but they often get the short end of the stick based on budget issues, et cetera. And when we found out we were being considered to receive a 4-year cooperative agreement from USAID, I thought that was a great moment to engage Leah regarding what kind of partnership we could develop with the Improved Group. And Leah, being the leader that she is, connected me with Sarah McGarraugh, who is an absolute joy to work with. And we've had a solid professional relationship as individuals. But as she mentioned, she had lived in Senegal for some time. She speaks not only French, but Wolof. She understands a bit about the different cultural dynamics. Working in Senegal is fascinating. It's wonderful, but it's also got some of its own sort of nuances. For example, it's a very there's a ton of culture and history there, and deep religion and just aspects of that culture which Sarah was able to capture quickly. And for that, we were able to then kind of move into the award. And what I always said to Sarah, and what I still believe, is that we're not interested to just check boxes. I mean, obviously there is a need to have strong due diligence with our donors, but how can we truly capture impact? How can we begin to introduce indicators and metrics that the organization has not historically had in place? And with that, then obviously we can continue to improve our game and move that across our various programs.
Yeah, so you already started kind of thinking about my next question, which was just kind of what were your aspirations, or what were you hoping to achieve when you signed us up and we started officially working together?
I mean, the M&E capacity is not a small thing, and it's not capacity that we have within our small organization. So, um, that was clearly an area that I wanted to bring in. We certainly have had a big idea for Senegal, but the Improve Group has helped us to think more realistically about what is doable, when it's doable, and key questions to ask. They've been able to provide ongoing technical assistance and support to our team in Senegal, creating tools that we can use, helping us with our reporting and our our data, to make sure that it's clean, that it is that we're answering the questions we set out to answer. And these are all, I see them as really critical. I mean, on a very personal note, I love that so much of this work is on the East Coast. So I love to be able to do this work from Minnesota, especially where it relates to food and agriculture and food security. I think we're the right state to lead that. So I love that the Improve Group is based here. I love that you have some members like Sarah McGarraugh on your team who have that international lens. I love that it's a women-owned company, and I love the philosophy of the Improve Group, as I understand it. Not only the space, the physical space that you've created, but also the attention to a strong internal culture. And so is definitely the M&E expertise, the flexibility in working with Bountifield, the willingness to pivot as we have learned some really big lessons along the way. But then I think the other very, very sort of natural and organic, thing that happens when, you happen to like the people you're working with.
Yeah.
And, it makes everything so much better.
Absolutely. Well, and so I'd love to hear more about, we're still working on this project together. We have another year. It's fun, but it feels ever emerging quickly. But what have you learned? What has Bountifield learned through our partnership and our work together thus far?
I've learned so many things. It's hard to know where to begin. I mean, I'll start with our project. I think that I've learned something about setting realistic expectations around, and I think we had, again, big goals that, but we had some assumptions behind those goals. I think that, the Improve Group has helped us to think through those and to come back around with that. I've learned, initially I had some assumptions about gender and adoption of technology by Senegalese women. And I've learned some very interesting information about the fact that women may use technology, whether they can afford it, and how that adoption plays out is another story. So it's important to be really thoughtful with our kind of upfront questions as we move into implementation. So that's been very interesting to our project. I have learned that there's a lot of real attention that needs to go into capacity building with our African teams, and being able to then have us all benefit from it. And I think that's as much about tools for evaluation as it is about process and communication. So having a good working dynamic is absolutely critical. And yes, I think that unfortunately much of development is not focused around learnings and, as I mentioned earlier, pivoting as needed, being flexible. But indeed, this work is really hard. There's not a magic bullet to this work. And so getting as much information as we can about what we're doing and how we can bring our best selves to the table, continues to be a question I ask myself every day. I think that Sara has certainly pushed our team in some very important and constructive ways to really get to the heart of kind of what are we doing and why. Obviously within the within the parameters of what we say we're doing, with the project, but continue to ask, is this working? Why, if it's not, why not? So there's more that can be done with that. But I think these are things that I've really learned from working with the Improve group and just working for some time now in Senegal and trying to navigate all of the the difficulties that can arise around local manufacturing of equipment, affordability of equipment, quality assurance of equipment, farmer feedback, clear business model, all those things. I mean, it's systems work. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the major shift for our organization as we went from sort of basic prototyping from St. Paul initially, which has its value for sure, but we moved into systems thinking. And it's the hardest work, and therefore we absolutely need a partner like the Improve group to accompany us along the way.
Yeah, and I like what you said too about I think the importance of our relationships. I think in the as you're talking about all the kind of the asking of the questions that I think I've really appreciated in working with you and with Bountifield is kind of that openness to being to the learning process and to being questioned. And I think that it really speaks to the high trust that we have between one another, that our goals are aligned and that we're here to support one another. So I appreciate that you said that. So my last question for you is to describe your best memory from, we had a 2-week inception work period together in Senegal with staff members and the program. And that was just to kick off our project and the evaluation work together. So what comes to mind for you of a best memory?
Well, I have 3 things. I don't like it I've never liked the question one thing, I feel boxed in with one answer. But I have a memory of almost as soon as we got to Senegal, you were in your full Senegalese garb. You had all of your beautiful dresses that you had saved, and just how adorable you looked in your Senegalese clothing, and how well received that was by the Senegalese. So I just loved seeing that. It was really affirming. The other thing that I just had this wonderful memory of you going through a training session with our new team that we were just putting into place because we were there for an inception of the project. So Sara was there from the beginning on, and Sara was kind of going through this really wonderful training that I think was not only helpful for the Senegalese team, but also for the U.S. Team that was there. And she brought this amazing sticky felt, I don't know what you call it.
The sticky wall.
Sticky wall. And I mean, the excitement that followed based on that sticky wall, and everybody that was in the room wanted one. They wanted Sara to send her more. And I almost felt like there could be like a new kind of side business to sell sticky walls to some of our development partners. But I mean, they went nuts over that thing, and it made it really fun and dynamic. And again, that's what we hope to have as much as possible. Then on a very personal note, I mean, I have this wonderful memory of, Dakar is on the ocean, and where we were staying was very near the ocean. And so one night we walked over to one of the many seafood restaurants along the coast, and we just talked and drank wine and ate amazing seafood and listened to the waves crashing. And it's just one of my favorite memories of all times. And of course, um, we then just kind of like tooled around and walked back to our hotel afterwards. It was a great evening to connect with Sara on a personal level, and just to hear about, her personal connection to this international work, and her friendships in Senegal, her enduring friendships. And you hope you're working with people that genuinely care and genuinely see that this is about partnership. It's about mutual respect. It's about celebration of other cultures, and I just really feel that Sara, embodies those qualities. And so, dinner was lovely. I'd do it again. So.
Absolutely. I agree. Oh, well, with that, did you have a question that you wanted to ask me? Otherwise, we have some we have just a couple of short closing questions or statements for purposes of the
I
video.
did have a quick question for you, just in terms of, well, so so one is just how our work together might have shifted your worldview.
Mhm.
And let's start with that. Go ahead.
My worldview. I think one of the things that really comes to my mind is this real deep engagement with the way an entire kind of agricultural system works, and really getting into where kind of capitalism or the market has failed and what the role can be, and can shift to become in a system where the kind of market status quo isn't working. And I have loved learning about the questions that you're asking yourselves, and the shifts that Bountifield is making around how you originally kind of started with the use of the threshers and the distribution and all of the kind of value chain um, partners along the way, and how that has really, how responding to the market um, continues to have both real opportunity, I think, in the development world, and it's been something that I've thought about, but my worldview before really had a lot of kind of some of the traditional kind of development ways of programming, and now this deep engagement with Bountifield has really helped me to understand the role that an organization can play in trying to shift, and that a nonprofit organization, I should specify, can help shift and be a part of making an impact in a market, in a marketplace, and that there's a continual adjustments to be made in thinking about that systems view, but it has really been impactful for me to think about the ways in which a nonprofit can really be an important part of helping to catalyze a change in a market system. So I think that would be what has been the biggest shift for me in my worldview.
Yeah, I think that's a really great insight. Then I love that you use the word catalyst, because that is how I also think of it. And I think, what does it mean to be a catalyst, and how to do that effectively, and
Mm-hmm.
and so on. My other question to you is just, what have been some interesting intercultural moments for you, and and relate as you've worked on this project the last 3 years.
Well, I don't have any kind of funny cultural snafus. When having studied and lived in Senegal, those kind of, I think I've made a lot of those already. But certainly in terms of, I think some of the interactions with and the relationships that I have tried to build with the Senegalese staff that are in the field. There have been kind of moments of, mostly it's kind of continued realization and reflection on my part about the privilege that I'm given as a white American woman with respect to, or kind of, I guess, maybe in contrast to the kind of, I guess, the undeserved respect or unearned necessarily respect that someone might have if they were a Senegalese woman. And so it's been interesting to kind of negotiate or navigate the relationships that I have with the Senegalese staff in kind of helping them to feel that that their opinions and their insights are just as important as mine. I have technical expertise in evaluation, but I think it's been really critical as we've worked through some of the design pieces or thought about monitoring systems to kind of continue to check back and hear feedback from staff about what's realistic in the environment, and to think about, you know, the ways that we might go about monitoring in a US and American culture might look different, and definitely have some realities that are different than in the Senegalese context. And so I think continuing to be reminded of that and just having like those little moments of reflection and kind of reminders of kind of how the timing might work out differently in a Senegalese setting than it might work out here. So those are kind of the things that I've reflected on.
Timing.
Yes.
Big differences in understanding of time for sure, and that's also part of the what makes this work fun too. So.
Well, with that, we'd like to hear if there's kind of like a quick little one-liner about what do you want people to know about IG?
I want people to know that IG is, genuinely committed to the community, and I think that's really exciting. Committed to a healthy work environment within the organization, committed to new learnings for yourselves as well. I think, and expanding your international portfolio is part of that. I love that that you as a company embrace learning, and that you also are really advocating with your clients to take that extra step and to go that extra mile so that we all become better at what we do. Happy 20th, happy 20th, wow. Happy 20th, happy 20th, wow. Is that good enough?
That was exceeded
Happy
my
20th, happy 20th, Tig. Love you.